when a drunk fan crashed onto Michael Jackson's stage in front of 64,000 screaming fans and lunged for his microphone. Everyone expected the King of Pop to let security handle it. But what happened next left the entire stadium in stunned silence. Instead of backing away or letting his bodyguards take over, Michael did something so unexpected that it completely transformed the energy of the night and became one of the most talked about moments in concert history. But what could possibly make the world's biggest superstar stop his own show and risk everything to help a stranger who had just invaded his space? The summer heat of 1984 still clings to the Los Angeles air as twilight descends over Dodger Stadium. The massive crowd's voices create a low rumble that seems to shake the very foundation of the iconic venue, their united energy building like a storm ready to break. The stage stands empty, bathed in deep blue light, while massive speakers emit a low, pulsing heartbeat that syncs with the crowd's anticipation. This is no ordinary concert. This is the Victory Tour, and Michael Jackson is at the absolute pinnacle of his career, riding the unprecedented wave of Thriller's global domination. The stadium itself seems to pulse with life, its concrete structure vibrating under the weight of collective excitement. Vendors weave through the aisles, their voices barely audible over the constant chatter and screaming of fans who have traveled from across the globe for this singular moment. Some have camped out for days, their dedication bordering on religious fervor. Others clutch homemade signs and photographs, hoping against hope for even a glimpse of recognition from their idol. The air is thick with anticipation, sweat, and the intoxicating mixture of dreams and desperation that only a Michael Jackson concert can generate. Behind the towering stage setup, Michael adjusts his signature glove on his left hand, the rhinestones catching fragments of backstage light like captured stars. His breathing is controlled, methodical, the same ritual he's performed hundreds of times before, yet tonight feels different. The weight of expectation hangs heavier than usual, pressing down on his shoulders like an invisible cape. Every magazine cover, every record broken, every screaming fan represents both triumph and burden, the kind only someone who has touched the very ceiling of human achievement can truly understand. The backstage area buzzes with controlled chaos, as crew members make final adjustments to equipment that must function flawlessly. There can be no mistakes, no technical failures, no moments of imperfection when the stakes are this high. The distant roar of the crowd penetrates even the reinforced walls, a constant reminder that the stadium full of fans has gathered not just to see a show, but to witness something extraordinary. They've come seeking wonder, demanding perfection, expecting the impossible made routine. Michael knows this, feels it in every fiber of his being, as he takes those final moments of solitude before stepping into the role that has both made him a legend and trapped him in its gilded cage. Security personnel move like shadows around the perimeter, their eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of trouble, but even they seem caught up in the electric atmosphere that precedes a Michael Jackson performance. The stadium lights begin to dim, and the crowd's volume rises exponentially, creating a wall of sound that could probably be heard from space. This is the moment when Michael Joseph Jackson transforms into the superstar, when the shy, soft-spoken young man disappears behind the persona that the world demands to see. As the opening chords begin to pulse through the massive sound system, Michael takes his final breath as just Michael and prepares to become something larger than life. The opening numbers flow with the precision of a Swiss watch, each movement choreographed to perfection, each note delivered with the kind of vocal control that separates legends from mere mortals. Michael glides across the stage with supernatural grace, his feet barely seeming to touch the ground as he executes moves that defy physics and logic. The crowd responds like a single organism, swaying and screaming in perfect synchronization, their devotion so intense it feels almost religious in its fervor. Every gesture he makes is amplified by countless voices, every spin and slide met with hysteria that threatens to tear the very fabric of reality. But beneath the flawless exterior, cracks begin to show to those who know how to look. The slight tremor in Michael's voice during the quieter moments, masked by the crowd's hysteria, but audible to the trained ear. The way his grip tightens on the microphone stand during transitions, as if it's the only thing keeping him anchored to reality. The brief moment between songs when his smile falters just enough to reveal the exhaustion that no amount of adrenaline can fully mask. His dancers move around him like protective spirits, but even they cannot shield him from the crushing weight of being expected to transcend human limitations night after night. The physical toll of being Michael Jackson extends far beyond the demanding choreography and vocal acrobatics. Every public appearance is a performance. Every interaction filtered through the lens of celebrity. Every genuine emotion scrutinized and dissected by millions of strangers who feel they own pieces of his soul. The young man who once dreamed of simply making music has become a prisoner of his own success, trapped behind walls of fame so high that genuine human connection feels like a distant memory from another lifetime. The irony is suffocating, surrounded by more people than most will ever see in one place, yet feeling more isolated than if he were completely alone. As the show progresses, Michael moves through the familiar motions with practiced ease, but there's something different about tonight's energy. Perhaps it's the sheer size of the crowd, or maybe it's the weight of carrying an entire tour on his shoulders, while the world watches for any sign of weakness. The theatrical beams feel hotter than usual, burning through his carefully applied stage makeup, the screaming more intense, the pressure to deliver a sublime experience more crushing than ever before. Each song demands everything he has to give, and still the audience hungers for more, their appetite for wonder seemingly infinite. The stage beneath his feet vibrates with the shared energy of the crowd, their stomping and clapping creating a rhythm that competes with the precisely timed music. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the carefully controlled temperature backstage, his body responding to stresses that go far deeper than physical exertion. Yet, even as he commands the stage with the confidence of someone born to perform, Michael remains acutely aware of his own vulnerability. One stumble, one missed note, one moment of imperfection could shatter the carefully constructed illusion that keeps the enchantment alive. The crowd sees invincibility. He feels the fragile humanity that beats beneath the sequined exterior, the heart that still yearns for simple connection in a world that has made him anything but simple. The rhythm of Billie Jean pulses through the stadium like a shared heartbeat as Michael reaches the song's iconic bridge, his voice soaring over the instrumental break that has become synonymous with musical perfection. The crowd sways in hypnotic unison, the sea of humanity moving as one entity, completely lost in the spell that only Michael Jackson can weave. The brilliant glare creates geometric patterns across his silhouette as he prepares for the legendary moonwalk sequence that never fails to send audiences into absolute delirium. But something is wrong in the periphery of this choreographed paradise. Near the front barriers, a commotion begins as security personnel shift their attention to a figure pushing through the tightly packed crowd with unusual aggression. The man stumbles forward, his movements erratic and uncoordinated, his eyes fixed on the stage with an intensity that transcends normal fan enthusiasm. Alcohol has clearly clouded his judgment, transforming admiration into something more desperate, more dangerous. Security personnel move to intercept, but the man's determination proves stronger than their initial efforts to contain him. With a sudden burst of adrenaline-fueled strength, he breaks through the barrier that separates the audience from their idol, his feet hitting the sacred ground of the stage where only legends are meant to tread. The music continues, but several musicians notice the disruption, their professional instincts kicking in as they maintain the rhythm, while chaos unfolds mere feet away. Michael, completely absorbed in his performance, doesn't immediately register the intrusion. He's in that transcendent state that performers know well, where the outside world dissolves and only the music exists. But the crowd's energy shifts dramatically, their screams changing from adoration to alarm, as they witness something that should never happen, a breach of the invisible wall that protects their hero from the harsh realities of uncontrolled human contact. The drunk fan lurches forward with surprising speed, his arm extended toward Michael's microphone in a desperate grab for connection with greatness. Perhaps in his alcohol-addled mind, he believes that touching the same microphone that has delivered so many legendary performances will somehow transfer that power to his own mundane existence. Or maybe he simply wants to be part of the show, to insert himself into history through sheer force of will and liquid courage. The collision happens in slow motion. Michael turns just as the man reaches him, surprise flickering across his face, as his brain struggles to process this impossible violation of his protected space. The fan's unsteady legs give out at the crucial moment, sending him crashing to the stage floor with a sickening thud that echoes through the suddenly silent stadium. The music stops abruptly, as if someone has pulled the plug on reality itself, leaving only the ambient hum of amplifiers and the unified gasp of the massive crowd who have just witnessed the unthinkable. Security personnel swarm the stage like a black-clad army, their training taking over as they move to neutralize the threat and protect their charge. But Michael stands frozen, staring down at the crumpled figure at his feet, a man who moments ago was just another face in the crowd, now lying vulnerable and exposed under the harsh glare of blazing illumination that transforms everything it touches into either wonder or nightmare. The silence that follows feels infinite, stretching across the stadium like a held breath that threatens to never be released. The massive crowd sits in stunned suspension, their unified consciousness struggling to process what they've just witnessed. Security personnel move with military precision, forming a protective circle around Michael, while preparing to remove the intruder who has dared to violate the sanctity of the performance space. This is the moment when protocol demands distance, when the superstar retreats behind his protective barriers and lets his handlers restore order to chaos. But Michael Jackson has never been one to follow expected protocols when his humanity calls him in a different direction. Instead of stepping back or allowing security to whisk him away to safety, he does something that defies every rule of celebrity conduct. He holds up his hand, stopping the advancing security personnel with a simple gesture that carries the weight of absolute authority. The personnel freeze, uncertain, their training telling them one thing while their employer's clear signal tells them another. Michael looks down at the fallen fan, seeing not a threat or an inconvenience, but a human being who has stumbled literally and figuratively in his desperate attempt to touch something transcendent. The man lies motionless on the stage floor, his face a mixture of embarrassment and pain, alcohol-induced bravado, now replaced by the harsh reality of his situation. In this moment, surrounded by the oppressive weight of fame and expectation, Michael makes a choice that strips away every layer of persona and reveals the man beneath the glittering exterior. Slowly, deliberately, Michael kneels beside the fallen fan, his rhinestone-covered glove catching the stage lights as he extends his hand toward the stranger who has crashed into his carefully constructed world. The gesture is simple, even mundane, but in this context, it becomes revolutionary. The icon, the most untouchable figure in entertainment, offering his hand to help someone who has just violated every boundary that fame has built around him. The crowd watches in absolute silence as Michael helps the man to his feet, his touch gentle and without judgment. There's no anger in his expression, no irritation at having his performance disrupted, no concern for the headlines this moment might generate. Instead, there's only compassion, pure, unfiltered human kindness that transcends the artificial barriers between celebrity and civilian. The drunk fan looks into Michael's eyes and sees not the distant figure from magazine covers, but someone who understands what it means to stumble and need help getting back up. As security gently escorts the fan off the stage, Michael takes the microphone and addresses his audience with words that will echo through the decades. His voice, usually reserved for lyrics and melodies, carries a different kind of power, now the authority of someone who has chosen grace over protocol, empathy over ego. The crowd erupts, not with the usual screams of adoration, but with something deeper, more profound. The sound of the entire stadium, recognizing that they've witnessed something rare and precious, in a world that too often mistakes performance for authenticity. Years later, those who were present that night would struggle to remember which songs Michael performed. But they would never forget the moment when he showed them that the greatest artistry isn't found in moonwalks or high notes, but in the simple act of extending a hand to someone who has fallen. In choosing compassion over convention, Michael Jackson revealed the true measure of his character, proving that legends aren't made just by what they can do on stage, but by who they choose to be when the performance stops and only humanity remains.